I'm Lisa McTighe Pierce, the executive editor of Packaging Digest, and welcome to the first Packaging Digest Fast Chat. I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to talk with Dwayne Hahn today. He's the Chief Strategy Officer with Paxis. And today we're going to be talking about sustainability in healthcare. So Dwayne, welcome so much. Happy to have you.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for letting me participate and be the first to participate in the Fast Chat. Didn't know that till just now, so even more excited than I was before.
Yes, great.
I do think the timing of our conversation is poignant. I noticed earlier this morning that this week Earth recorded its hottest day on record, which I think drives home the importance of this conversation, and not just this industry, but all manufacturers are trying to do, which is to try and design for more sustainable future.
Right. Before we get into those details, though, Dwayne, let's take the bigger picture look and talk about what does sustainability in healthcare mean today?
Yeah, I think you might be able to ask 50 people and receive 50 different answers. There's a lot of good work being done. I think the reality is there's not a lot of clear guidance out there yet. There's many organizations working on it, and we'll go into some of that, I think, today. But clearly, the healthcare side of things is behind food and consumer packaging because of the regulatory aspect of, there's much more in our way, if you will, to create recyclable materials when you have to report out to the FPA and get clearance on the regulatory side of things. So there's reasons why we're behind, but there's also, like I say, many good pieces of work being done to help bring that down in the future.
I agree. There is a lot being done, and maybe that's what is a little bit of the problem, because there are so many options. How do you even know where to start? But let's talk for a bit then about some of these details. Yeah. What would you say packaging engineers can do to incorporate sustainability into their packaging designs?
There's the 3 R's are used a lot in this conversation. That's recycling, reduction, and reuse. In healthcare, we can't really reuse, so we focus a lot on the reduction and the recycling part. And I think it sometimes gets overlooked, but with all the new technologies out there, there's so much opportunity to reduce the amount of packaging, which is also quite good for the environment. It's not just recycling. For example, when you're designing a package, trying to eliminate the layers that are in a package, making it more simple. I'll give you some examples. In healthcare packaging, there's so much coating that's used on paper and Tyvek to make pouches and form-fill-seal packages. There's really good film technology out there now where you can really eliminate the need for that coating. So that's an entire pass. The energy that's used, the entire supply chain can be removed for producing that coating. So, that's really good for the environment. It's good for consumers. So, that's one thing that I don't think everyone thinks about in this conversation. You don't have to go all the way to the recycle side. You can look at reduction in the amount of materials used as well.
Okay, that makes total sense to do it in stages like that. Yes. Early on, when sustainability started to become a big thing in packaging, the advice was to look for the low-hanging fruit, go with that, and then, move on to maybe some of the more complex things.
I really think there's 3 things you can think of. It's like I was saying, reducing the layers or thickness.
Yep.
There's also, trying to reduce the footprint. As companies start to grow and scale with their package selection, if you will, a lot of times you start off with a pre-made pouch if you're using small volumes. As the economics aren't there to automate and go to a form-fill-seal machine or even a flow wrap. So as time marches forward, it's so good to take a long step backwards and think about where you're at and why, and what you can do moving forward. Because once you hit, we call it the critical mass, if you will, of a million units. And that's when it typically makes sense to look at potentially changing from a pre-made pouch to something more automated like a flow wrap or a form-fill-seal machine. but you can see sometimes up to a 40% reduction in the size by making that change. So that's pretty significant.
40%, that's way significant. Yes. Good to know. Thanks for some of those ideas. Do you have any additional guidance for packaging designers these days, specifically as it relates to circularity? Sustainability over the years within packaging has been evolving, and today we're hearing a lot about circularity.
Yeah, for sure. That comes up in every conversation, I think, these days when we're working with our colleagues, whether it's suppliers, customers, partners. I think there's one really good document that I'd like to spend a few minutes talking about. That it just came out.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you've heard of the Healthcare Plastics Recycling Council.
Yes.
But I'm really excited to be on the executive committee of this organization, simply because it's made up of members from the entire supply chain. There's resin manufacturers, companies like Paxos and others that make the materials or bottles, trays. There's the medical device manufacturers themselves, hospital buying groups, mechanical recyclers, advanced recycling organizations. So you have the entire chain represented. And we spent a lot of time and some fairly heated conversations, if you will, coming up with a guidance document. And within that document, there's actually tables that have preferred, less preferred, and not preferred based on the package type that the medical device engineer might be trying to create or engineer for an existing product. So I think it points you to what the options are based on what we know today. Clearly, it's an ever-changing landscape, and the rules are not fully defined by any means yet.
Right.
But I think it takes an optimistic view towards what can be done now and how we should be designing for the future. I think a specific example would be kind of building on what I said a minute ago about the reducing the layers or minimizing the size. If you can do one or both of those things, while at the same time trying to incorporate one of the mono materials like high density polyethylene, polypropylene, so that when the hospitals are able to segregate their waste more effectively, the package doesn't have to be redesigned again. It can go straight to a mechanical recycler or an advanced recycler and go back into the circularity, if you will, of the whole manufacturing process for packaging or actual devices itself.
Nice. I like the way how you've phrased that, where you're talking about recycling, but there's the thought behind the whole process of the circularity aspect of it, which, as we already said, we've been hearing more and more about as one of the evolutions in sustainability within packaging these days. So how has this understanding about circularity and sustainability impacted what you folks do at Paxos as far as product development to help the industry?
That's a really good question. And I like to say that one of the things I'm really proud of Paxos and our organization is that it really starts with the understanding of the environment and the regulatory landscape, the testing landscape. Our organization spends a lot of time leading and participating in organizations like ASTM, Sterile Packaging Manufacturers Council, Sterile Barrier Association. I mentioned the Healthcare Plastics Recycling Council, KIP, TAPI, so on. So by being really involved in those organizations, we understand where our industry is headed before it gets there. So we take that knowledge base and flow it into our R&D group, who's designing materials for where we believe the future is going to land. Obviously sometimes we're wrong, but in the times when we're right, we can leapfrog, a long time horizon of trying to create products, because it can take 2 to 3 years to develop some of these products. And
sure.
I can tell you an example for us is our Stream family. We developed all high density lidding, all polypropylene materials and all polyethylene materials a decade ago, thinking that we would end up where the conversation is and really landed over the last year and a half. I mean, when we developed that product line, it was just a light way out in the future. And we had a strong belief where the world was going to go, and that the sentiment of healthcare packaging would move from change is never going to happen to we better make the change or our industry is going to be in trouble. So I'm very happy to say that, and not just PACS, many other organizations, I think, saw the warning bells coming and tried to develop products way ahead of when we were being asked for them.
Well, very insightful, Dwayne, and a sure sign of leading in your industry. Thank you so much for that. That's all the time we have to talk right now. Dwayne, thank you so much. Thrilled to have had you on the first Packaging Digest Fast Chat.
Thank you, Lisa. Really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
You too.